Shemaine Man, we'll come back today. We're talking about Conan, the Adventurer. Conan, the Role-Playing Game, first edition. I have read this and played two different characters, multiple game sessions each. I have not read or played or owned the second edition. We're talking about the first edition of this book. And that's right, for those of you who have seen the 90s cartoon show, Needle. Yeah, that's right, Needle. My son really enjoys it. The 90s cartoon show, they went way higher fantasy than they should have with the Robert E. Howard genre. But this game didn't, and this game does a very good job, I think, of getting across the sword and sorcery that Howard put together for the Conan game, for the Conan storylines, you know. And we have all these different types of people from the different countries of Hyperborea, and the wizard types in this game, the sorcerers, are much, I guess the easiest way to put it is they're much weaker, they're much more skill-based, they're slower, more methodical, they kind of come across more realistic than the D&D wizards, which are, you know, the most horrendously unrealistic thing you could pretty much have in terms of actually trying to get across a believable amount of magic in a game. The book has artwork that I really like, and you can see there all these weapons, and they all have blood on them, like, you know, someone just got sorted out, and you can see like they have nice little lines here on all the pages. They're full color. The book originally retailed for $49.95. I think I got mine for like $10 plus shipping, maybe a little less than that. It was put out by Mongoose Publishing. It was the OGL for D20. Mongoose really put out a lot of good stuff for Dungeons & Dragons as well, and they have several other games. I don't know if I've played any of them besides Conan, but Conan is quite good. There are a lot of differences, and we're going to talk about the differences between this and the 3X Dungeons & Dragons line. But before I get into that, let me talk about one of these feats that I found really interesting. It's called Light-Footed, a general feat. You dislike armor and are significantly more effective without it. Prerequisites: sneak attack class feature, hide 1 rank, move silently 1 rank. Whenever you are unarmored and carrying at most 20 pounds of gear in total, you gain an extra +1 die to your sneak attack damage. Either D6 or D8 is appropriate. There's a way to get D8 sneak attack dice in this game. And it also gives you a +1 dodge bonus and a +1 circumstance bonus to all hide and move silently checks. So, quite interesting. I really enjoy playing characters that have light or no armor pretty much all the time. It just looks cooler to me. So when I find feats that really help work with that kind of concept, that works for me. The second character I played was a Zingaran fighter thief, and I had that feat on him. I'll show you some of the pictures here. So they have races, but they're all just, well, I mean, I guess, you know, you look at them really more in terms of different ethnicities, because you're playing a human, and only a human in Conan. There's a few things that maybe you could jury-rig a character together out of some of the templates, but there really aren't very many monsters in Conan. A lot of them are very powerful, kind of Cthulhu-esque monsters, because Howard was friends with and influenced by H.P. Lovecraft. So there's some of that aspect, but it's tuned down in power level, because you can actually confront and deal with these entities. They're not all powerful. So they lose a bit of that. Now, they, of course, right there for the races, right off the bat, have Sumerian, Desirati, it has all the deities of the Conan world as well. This system has a large number of books for it, which is probably a big selling point to a lot of people. Now, I'm not going to go through all the tribes. They have the Hyperboreans, the Argosians, the Gundermen, the Catan, the Nordheimer. The first character I played was a Nordheimer. I'm not going to carefully go through it. It was one that starts with the Shear. Yeah, that's what it is. The Picts, the Shemites, the Stygians, of course. Who could forget Stygia, which is, of course, Egypt, where you have Set and all this corruption and the terribleness, the magic and so forth from, you know, the movie with Belsadoon and all that awesomeness. And Zamorans, of course. I think I might have said, and then we have Zingaran. Did I say it was a Zamoran? I was playing a Zingaran, my fighter thief character. I was not playing as Zamoran. But we were in Zamora, which is interesting. What I really wanted to play, and fucking bastard Nosferus, who will probably watch this video, wouldn't let me play, is Ranastani. That's right, Bob, I wanted to play someone from Ranastan, which is not detailed in this book, but in one of the add-on books that he does have. They did have Ranastanis. I thought that would be, awesome. Dual wield some clubs. You understand what I'm talking about, and if you don't, then you don't. But for classes, this is pretty much a fighter paradise sort of a game. This is not about clerics and wizards and all this magic and all that bullshit. It's about getting a big axe and beating someone senseless with it and getting blood on it. There's a damn reason all the weapons in this book have blood on them. That's absolutely the case that these weapons will be used and used again. And why wouldn't they be? Take a look. I showed you some of the weapons. Take a look at some more of them. I mean, they all have blood. Every single one of those weapons has blood. Glorious, glorious blood of spilled fallen victims. I assure you, there was much pain involved. The skill system is very similar to Dungeons and Dragons, with two specific differences. You can use, if you have an intelligence bonus, the bonus you get at every level can be used to buy any skill. All skills are legal. There are no class skills with that. So the points you get, say, if you're a barbarian, you get this 4 for being a barbarian. You have to buy, if you want out-of-class skills, you have to buy them at cross-class cost, 2 points for one skill. However, if you had an intelligence of 12, you could pick that one rank up with that point in intelligence. So that kind of, it's kind of a weird little deal. The book has a whole bunch of problems as far as editing goes. There are some, it'll tell you A over here and B over here. You're like, well, does a barbarian get this skill or does a barbarian not get this skill? And that occurs several times throughout the game. It is not incredibly well polished. There's stuff you can clearly see that they just sort of cut and paste onto a template from the OGL rules at the time. Parts that should absolutely not be in the book. They're talking about like small size characters, and they're talking about just many different points. There's all kinds of little, just small, minute details, things you could easily overlook and don't affect the book. But for those that are sticklers for that sort of thing, which I am not, I will point that out though, as it is noticeable. Now, also languages are absurdly easy to learn in this game, which I don't like. I'm not a fan of that. Like, put the work in, do the time, because there is no common. So basically, I think you get like a language a level, and there's some that are just ridiculous like that. It's like, any language you're exposed to, when you go up a level, you just pick one of those and boom, add that on your character. Like, that easy, that quick, not even a need to spend skill points. So we finally found that out. We're like, oh, all right, I guess we can see how this goes. But to me, it was ridiculous. My character had too many languages, and me, I'm the kind of person that will spend points in a Dungeons & Dragons type game to know tons of languages, because I think that's great. I think that's a tremendously important thing to have. I like to have high charisma characters. In fact, both my characters in the Conan game, my barbarian had like a 15, and my rogue had like a 17 charisma. I typically like to keep it opulent, and I'm going to do that with a high charisma score most of the time. I'll flip it up every once in a while, so it doesn't get to be the same old song. But let's talk about the classes we have in this game. We have barbarians. Of course we do. They made these barbarians too much like the barbarians in Dungeons & Dragons. I don't like that. They have just too many similarities. However, they do have some badass stuff like Bite Sword and some things like that, which I'm like, okay, they're getting it a little closer. But I would have made it a little more in the lines of being able to detect sneak attacks, being able to really have some serious bonuses against wizards and things like that. The barbarian class was okay. It didn't come off seamlessly to me to be set in to really add those aspects of Conan. Of course, Conan is detailed in the book, and he's not just straight up a barbarian. He actually has lots of classes. See if I can find him. So, in fact, I did not get Conan ready. So we will show you the character sheet though, and looks like that. So the color, and it has a map there, of course, in the front. That's kind of a good place to put a map, but I don't know. And I have completely skipped out of the part that I needed to show you guys here. We're talking about the classes. So let me just refine that. Here we are. So of course you have the barbarian. You know, that's going to be necessary for Conan game. They have something called a borderer, which is very similar to a ranger. So, another aspect. Let me just talk about this for a minute. They have armor class is done a good bit differently in this. You have a parry and you have a dodge. Things like arrows, for example, you have to dodge, and they have a lot of complex rules like, you know, when they start getting into hexes, if there's too many opponents around you, you get a penalty to dodge, or you can't dodge, and of course you can't parry any sort of missile attacks. So either type of defense you might have to use, you might not have just one defense you're going to be able to use all the time, and they are not always equal. Some classes like the borderer, they advance equally. All classes get dodge and parry bonuses just as part of the class, and there's feats you can augment with that with as well. It seems, I think they cap out at 15 is on the high end, and 7 is on the low end. For example, at 20th level, and that's what I'm talking about, 15 and 7, a barbarian has a plus 15 to their dodge bonus and a plus 7 to their parry. So it's kind of interesting. I'm personally not a fan of a dodge or parry, because it doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, if I have a sword in my hand, I'm not going to be like, whoa, let me just jump out of the way. You know, I'm going to be like, well, let me parry off with my sword and jump out of the way. You're going to try to do both. It even, in fact, talks about that at one point in the book. Well, the styles actually combine some of both. Like, well, why not just put them all together? But, yeah, they try to be different. They try to get something else different across. And the mechanical part of the game, that was one of their changes that I thought was kind of superfluous. But they also have a noble class, which, who was it? Was it Black Barnes? It was like, oh, this game was a good noble class. Well, not in this one. As he did point out, noble classes do kind of suck. And it's just kind of another class. I didn't really care too much about it. Now you have the nomad. You have the pirate. Of course, pirates are very prevalent in Conan. There's so many stories about pirates. Of course, Conan himself has pirate levels as well. So, you know, that's an extra little piece there. You have the scholar class, which is, you know, with anyone that's doing magic, they're going to be a scholar. But you don't have to be doing magic to be a scholar. Soldier, you have that class as well, which is essentially just fighter. Just put a different name on it. There are some classes outside of the base book here, like Enchantress, you could play, or Seductress, something like that. You could play, you know, that. Thief, it's not a rogue, it's a thief. And with chosen weapons, you can get a D8 on your sneak attack instead of a D6. So a rogue or a thief in this game can really do a hell of a lot of damage. I mean, they can light that ass up, guaranteed. They have fate points in this game. They have codes of honor. There's different codes of honor, like a barbarian code of honor, and so forth that you pick. And then when you start displaying those characteristics, it kind of shows people what you're about. You can also, of course, be a completely honorless character. So, you know, that's an aspect. You know, we have here the barbaric code, the civilized code, and I think there's a whole bunch of them in some of the extra source books for this game. Everybody knows there's a whole stack of these books. I hope they run a game again. If you see this, maybe he'll be so inclined. Pretty much the standard sort of skills you're used to seeing. Now, one thing they did. Now, I just told you about how they have defense. Their defense is parry and, or should I say parry or dodge. So you select and you use that depending on the circumstances. Now, shields add to your parry, but armor itself doesn't give you any kind of bonus at all to like an armor class. It doesn't help you there. What armor does is gives you damage reduction, kind of. It's like a weak damage reduction because every weapon has an amount that they override. Well, actually every weapon, I think, except the fist. The fist does 0. And I think every single weapon has at least 1 point of overriding. So if you had a quilted jerkin, which would be like +1 armor class in Dungeons & Dragons, is a +3, or it's 3 ranks of damage reduction. But even a dagger overrides 1 point of that, so it's automatically pretty much completely gone if they're hitting you with a weapon. If you have armor on, you're helped, and you get an extra bonus if you're wearing a helmet. They have like 3 different kinds of helmets in the game. They have some nice pictures of the different kinds of armors there. Of course, the quilted jerkin. Anyone that's played with me knows that I'm a big fan of padded armor, because no one fucking ever uses it. Your main man uses it. That's documented. Now, also the artwork here for the breastplate, I think it's smooth looking. Tell me that doesn't look like something right out of Conan. You know, it's all evil looking. I gets with it most assuredly. But for example, you know, you have a damage reduction all the way up to 10. Plate armor is a damage reduction of 10. Now, I think the top weapons cap out at like 8 or 7 maybe of what they're overriding. But of course, you know, you drop a high strength in there, you get a good roll, and the weapons themselves, a lot of them have higher damage. They're ratcheted up one level. Like for example, you know, a weapon that does like a D8. I think a longsword does like a D10 in this game. So, you know, that adds. And then let me show you this picture. Even the whip has blood on it, but the great sword there. I think that picture of the great sword looks absolutely smooth to me. I'm quite enjoying it. But overall, they do a very good job getting over Robert E. Howard's vision of this world. I quite enjoy it. I quite like it. It's the only Howard game I've ever played. I've never been fortunate enough to play Solomon Kane, at least as of yet. But I'll be going to a convention. All those who want to come out of MarsCon. It's going to be the 13th, 14th, and 15th, January, Williamsburg. So maybe somebody down there will be running it. I don't know. I would like to play that. I do enjoy Solomon Kane as well. Of course, Conan is the main man for Robert E. Howard. And that is pretty much everything here. You can, if you look, it might take you a while. These are not that easy to find on eBay, but if you look, you can find them. They're going to be a hell of a lot less than the $50 this book originally went for, which in my mind is ridiculous. But I'm a cheap bastard, so you know maybe some people think $50 is straight for a role-playing game book. I don't know. Overall, I really enjoy the game, and I would definitely recommend it if you're a fan of just Dungeons and Dragons in general. But if you're not a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, if you want a more gritty, a darker, a more brutal game, definitely Conan has that. You barely have any kind of healing at all in this game, and it makes it quite wicked and quite powerful. So I would definitely suggest, you know, picking this up, playing it, running it, read some of the Conan stories to get yourself an idea for the flavor and the feel of the moods that they're trying to establish with the game. I think it would be good to go with this one.